Imperfect action is better than absolutely no action at all, and for the last God knows how many months I've been taking no action. What's up guys, how's it going? Welcome to the very first episode of the Ian Jack Fitness Podcast. On this podcast we're going to be talking about all things to do with weight loss, life, fitness, exercise and all that good shit to help you live a better life. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can catch all the latest episodes when they drop, and make sure you share this to your stories so we can get this out to more people. So in today's episode we're going to talk about one of the biggest reasons that people stay stuck in their lives, whether it be losing weight, launching a new business, going and meeting the partner of their dreams, like whatever the hell it may be. We're going to talk about the one thing that really keeps people stuck and just going round and round in circles for years and years and years of their life. And to be honest, it's one of the biggest reasons that I put off doing this podcast. Like, I've wanted to do this podcast for such a long time, but I've always just kind of put it off and put it off. Like, I'll just do it next week, I'll do it the week after, I'll start it here, I'll start it, and I've always put it off. I've never actually just taken that leap and got it done. But here's the thing, man, like one of the things like what my coaches talk about is imperfect action is better than absolutely no action at all. And for the last God knows how many months, I've been taking no action. All right, and this really kind of rolls in and it allows me to kind of talk about one of the biggest reason why most people don't start. Right, it's because you think that you have to do everything absolutely perfectly. You think you have to have the most perfect circumstances to get yourself moving. So if we take weight loss for an example, so many people will tell me that they can't start losing weight because the time's just not right. Or I can't start just now because I've got a holiday coming up in 3 weeks' time. And then after that, I've got the Easter holidays coming up, and then the Christmas holidays, and this, like blah, 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 whatever it is. There's always going to be something coming up. But people are, you use that and say that you can't, that's the reason you can't get started. That's the reason that you never ever move yourself forward. There's always going to be something that comes up that's going to make the circumstance less than perfect. But if we're always waiting on that perfect circumstance to get ourselves moving forward, then we never ever move forward. All right, so if I go back to me starting this podcast, like I've wanted to start it for a long time, but there was a lot of things that kept coming up for me that stopped me from doing it. So one of which is my own mentality. That's something I'm going to talk about in a later podcast. That inner voice that kind of talks to you and tricks you out of doing things. Like, you maybe want to do a certain thing, but then that wee voice in your head comes up and tells you you're not good enough, or tells that you're nobody's going to watch, nobody's going to listen, or from a weight loss perspective again, well, what's the point? You've tried and failed before, so you're probably just going to try. You're probably just going to fail again. So what's the point even trying? Right? And that little voice gets the better of you, and it's the thing that holds you back. Right, with this podcast, I had it cemented in my head that nobody's going to watch anyway. And like, maybe nobody will watch, but that doesn't stop me from starting. Right, that's a fear that lives inside my head. But if I allow that fear to dictate what I do, then I'll never ever move forward. I'll never get anywhere, and this podcast won't get out to the world. And even if nobody did watch, or even if a very small amount of people did watch this, but only, and it helped one person, then it's been a massively worthwhile project to get moving. But if I hadn't done it at all, that one person wouldn't have got any help. Right? So that little voice in my head that held me back from doing it, it wasn't benefiting me because I never moved forward with the podcast, but it also potentially doesn't benefit the people that I'm trying to help as well. So that was one thing that really held me back. But then also, what we're trying to talk about in this episode is that whole kind of perfectionist mindset where you feel like everything's got to be right. Right? So for me, like, I wanted to have the perfect backdrop, I wanted to have the perfect light, I wanted to decorate my little office that I've got here, I wanted to have all the right lights, I wanted to have the right equipment, I wanted to have the right microphones because I was worried that the sound wasn't going to come across quite as well as it could do. And, I allowed all these things to stop me from actually moving forward with my goal. I was worried about, once I've recorded it and, what do I do about editing it? Because I had this thing in my head of, I don't have time to edit. I'm going to have to cut out all the ums and ahs, and what if I stumble, and what if I make mistakes? Now, I've done hundreds of live videos over on Facebook. If you've followed me on any social media for a while, you'll know that I've done hundreds of live videos over on Facebook, and in those videos, I'm live. I can't edit out any of the mistakes that I make, but I was worried about doing that in a pre-recorded video. It's like, what if I stumble? What if I stutter? If I do that, I've not got time to edit that out, what will I do? I'll just have to wait. I'll wait until I've got more time. I'll just wait until I've got more time so that I can then edit it and get the perfect product out. But again, it's then me just falling into that perfectionist mindset. And this is the mindset that keeps so many people stuck. Like I say, whether it be, losing weight. People put off losing weight for so many strange, bizarre reasons, right? They don't have time to do it. They've got busy jobs. They don't have time to kind of start the whole process. You've maybe lost weight before and you failed on a diet and you're worried about doing it again, or you think you've got to go and spend hours and hours in the gym or hours and hours out breaking your knees on the pavements running until your face turns purple. And a lot of these things, you know, they're beliefs that we've got in our head, but they're the beliefs that are keeping us stuck. If we could just move those beliefs to the side and actually just start doing something, like if you're doing nothing at all from a weight loss perspective right now, and you just took up that very act of going out for a 10-minute walk every day, it might not seem like a lot, but over a period of time, that's going to start to mount up and it's going to make such a massive difference. If you just started kind of cutting back the carbs just a wee bit in your meals and increasing the veg intake, and I'm not saying to cut carbs out, you know, we'll speak about weight loss and dietary stuff in a later episode. I'm not saying to cut carbs out, that's definitely not what I'm saying. If we start to reduce them a little bit and then increase the veg intake, we're going to massively reduce the calories that we're taking in, which is then going to start helping us to kind of lose weight. And we've not done anything drastic. We've not made massive changes to our life. We've just made a very small change, which is then going to allow us to kind of keep on moving forward. But because we think in our heads that everything has to be perfect, like the timing has to be perfect, I have to have the right amount of time to go to the gym, I have to have the exact perfect, amazing, like perfect diet, you know, I can't do this unless I can only eat chicken, broccoli and rice. And we've got it in our head that we have to have this really perfect way of doing things if we want to make any progress. But that's just not true. And that mindset is the very thing that keeps us stuck. It stops us from ever actually starting. And what ends up happening is we then start to look for quick fixes. Like, let's jump on this quick fix diet. Let's look for this super quick money making scheme. Let's look for this super quick way of doing this. We always look for the easy solution because we think that the right way is going to be so goddamn difficult, or so, you know, we have to be absolutely perfect in order to make progress. And if we stick with the weight loss example, what tends to happen is people will jump into a diet, or they'll jump into, you know, whatever kind of program or structure they start to follow to lose some weight, and they've still got this perfectionist mindset. So then if you even have a slight slip where you fall off track, and you have a Mars bar when you feel you should only be eating like what are they called? Carrot sticks. That's the word I was looking for. But you think you should only be eating carrot sticks, all right? You've slipped off path. Oh, I should have had my carrot sticks. But what you really wanted was a Mars bar. So you then go and eat the Mars bar, and then you think it's the end of the world because you've ruined the perfect picture in your head of what you think you should be doing in order to make progress. Right? But if you just allowed yourself to have that Mars bar, then kept on moving forward and realised that you don't have to be perfect, it doesn't really matter, it's just a Mars bar, you're probably going to keep on that same path and keep on making progress without completely, you know, panicking and hitting the fuck it button and then going, blah, fuck, and then you end up stuffing your face full of all kinds of shit. Right? So I think the biggest thing we need to start to move away from is having this idea in our head that everything has to be perfect. Right? And the more perfect we try to make things, the one will probably never ever get started properly, and if we do actually get started, the more likely we are that we're going to then just fall off track after a very short period of time, especially when it comes to diet and nutrition, because the perfect diet, the perfect nutrition plan is pretty damn boring. It's really, really boring. If you've ever tried to take that approach before, where you eat nothing but chicken, broccoli and rice and maybe some unflavoured oats for your breakfast, man, it's only going to be a matter of time before that falls by the wayside. You're not going to be able to keep that going for a long period of time. Right? But most people think that that's what you have to do. Right? And once we start to show you that it doesn't have to be that way, you know, you can have like a bacon roll for your breakfast, and then you can have a nice tasty chicken salad for your lunch, and you can have a bowl of bolognese and spaghetti for your dinner, maybe even a bit of garlic bread with it. You know, people look at that and go, holy crap, how can that work? Because that's not the perfect thing that I think I need to do. Whereas once we start to kind of train you that it's actually the overall amount of calories that you're eating that matter, and within that you can eat pretty much whatever the hell you want within reason, that's such a big switch for people. All right, but more often than not, the very first thing we need to do is just get you started. Right, so like I say, this applies to whether you're launching a new business, trying to get into a relationship with your the perfect woman, trying to kind of start the whole kind of process of losing weight. It doesn't matter. All right, if you just always think, right, everything has to be perfect, everything has to be absolutely spot on. If it's not spot on, I can't get started. Well, the truth of that matter is, if you just always take that approach and always have that mentality, you'll probably never ever get started. And if you do, it'll be a half-arsed effort. Right? Whereas if you just started saying, right, okay, what's the smallest level of thing that I can do right now? So again, harping back to me with this podcast, like for me, the thing I had to do was just take action. I don't have the perfect equipment. I don't have a fancy microphone. I don't have the perfect lighting. So I'm doing this just off my phone right now. The name of the podcast, I'm not 100% happy with, the Ian Jack Fitness Podcast. I don't know if that's what I want it to be called, because I don't want to talk about just fitness. I want to talk about helping men overcome, the negative mindset patterns and limiting self-beliefs. I want to talk about life in general, like life as a dad, how like certain things that I've overcome as a dad. different things that you know, I feel that men should be doing. I want to get on different guests that don't just talk about weight loss. So there's a lot of things that I want to cover. So the Ian Jack Fitness podcast, that pigeonholes me to one little thing. But as it stands right now, it's kind of the only name that I could kind of come up with, because that's the name of my business, is Ian Jack Fitness. So if I just kept on sitting going, oh, what do I want to call this? What do I want to call this? I probably would have never got started, because I'm waiting for the perfect name to come up. And if I was waiting on the perfect light and all that kind of stuff, that's stuff I can do. I can probably, like, you know, I can decorate my office. I can do different things. So I've got my wee fancy lights in here. I've got a wee fancy light up in the top of my unit there, which doesn't actually work at the minute because I need to charge it up. But you know, there's wee things that I've done. Those are little things that I can kind of change over time. But the name of the podcast, I can change it anytime. That's something I can change at any time. But the action step for me was just to take action. I just had to take action. I had to get this episode out there, right? And the truth is, I'm probably not going to edit it. All right, I'm probably not going to edit it much. So when I stumble over my words, I get excited sometimes, and I end up kind of my mouth goes faster. How do you even say that? My mouth goes faster than my brain, or my brain goes faster than my mouth can keep up. Right, so I've got all these things that I want to say, and in my mouth, that's it. My brain goes faster than my mouth can keep up. I don't even know if that's the right thing, but hey, it doesn't matter. But you get my point, all right? So I've got so many things that I think I want to say in my head, but then my mouth just can't keep up with what I want to say sometimes. So I stumble my words. Right, but for me, and like, you know, again, looking at it personally, that's the thing that I was like, oh man, I can't post that because it's not going to be perfect. What if somebody watches this and then they judge me because I don't speak as clearly as some other people? Or what if some people watch this and go, oh, he stumbles all over his words, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Right, but if all I ever do is think about what those people think, then I'll never ever get moving. But like I said earlier, if I put this out to the world, I'm going to put it onto YouTube, and I'm going to put it out to a couple of podcast platforms, which, in all honesty, terrifies the shit out of me, because that's then a piece of content that's out to the whole world that everybody can see. It's out there forever, you know. But if that piece of content helps even one person to just get out and go for a walk, like if you watch this today, whenever you're watching it, if you watch this on YouTube or you listen to it on a podcast episode, and it encourages you just to get off the couch and go and do a quick walk around your block when you haven't done anything like that for months, then that's a massive step in the right direction, excuse the pun, right? That's a massive step in the right direction, right? And it may not seem like a lot to you now, like I said earlier, it might not seem like a lot to you now, but just that very simple act of getting up and getting moving, that's sometimes the thing you need just to get the ball rolling, right? So if you look at, like, if you, again, looking at an analogy, if you try and roll a boulder, the hardest part of getting that boulder to move is the initial movement. It's that kind of, it's the law of inertia. Once you get it going, it's actually pretty easy to keep it moving. It'll just keep on tumbling down, especially if it's going down now. It's massive, you're probably never going to move in the first place. But the very act of just getting that thing to move is the hardest part. Once it's going, then the momentum starts to kind of keep it moving forward. This is no different. All right, you just need to take that action. When you take that one very small action, it's going to then start to kind of build that momentum. You're going to keep on things moving. Right? And this is one of the things I actually say to a lot of my clients, you know, my personal clients come on board to work with me, is we try, especially from a health and fitness perspective, we look at changing everything all at once. All right, when I say to people, well, what if we could just change one habit every single month? If we could get you doing one habit every month for the next year, that's going to be 12 brand new habits that you've got over the course of the year. And you're probably going to find that's going to really change your life quite a lot. Most people would look at that and go, no way, man, that's too slow. That's too slow. It's not fast enough. I want it to happen now. Right? And this is where we end up getting massively overwhelmed, because we try and change everything in our lives. We think we've got to change everything. We need to change all of our diet, completely overhaul it. We need to change our, you know, we need to start working out 6 days a week for an hour at a time in the gym. Is it any wonder you can't find the motivation to get yourself moving and actually can't take that step to get yourself moving, because you think you've got such a big task ahead? All right, but when you do, and then if you ever do take that approach, it normally crashes and burns after 2 or 3 weeks, and then you're no further forward. So by the end of another year, you've got no new habits, none whatsoever. Right, so while they're kind of making that small step, taking those kind of really small steps, while that seems like it's going to take such a long time, it's going to get you so much further ahead than the approach you're taking right now. Right, but the very first thing you do, the very first thing you have to do is just get up and take some action. Because if you don't ever take action, nothing's going to change. Right, and this is why when people say, oh, you know, I'm lacking motivation, you're not lacking motivation. You're lacking a solid structure and a solid plan, first and foremost, that you can follow to show you what to do. But then secondly, you're just lacking that wee bit of discipline to just get up and take that first initial step. Right, and that could be, it's absolutely pissing down with rain outside, and you're like, oh man, I don't want to go out and walk out there. But you know, I've made a commitment. I said I was going to walk. Cool, go out and walk, man. Put on a waterproof jacket, grab an umbrella. Just go out and walk. After you finish your dinner, go for a 10-minute walk around the block. Might not seem like loads, but it will make a massive difference, especially if you then start to compound that on top. And then from there, just look, where can I get extra steps in? And once you've nailed that for a month, what's your next thing? Right, with my diet, can I just look at adding in more protein at every meal? Right, what small things can you do to start getting that momentum moving? And you apply that same principle to anything that you're doing in your life, whether it be becoming a better dad, like, okay, I'm really struggling with dadding. Like, what do I need to do then to be a better dad? Well, first and foremost, maybe go and read a book about being a better parent. Or maybe look at a coach online about what they do. Or maybe speak to another couple of dads that you think are crushing it and ask them what they're doing. And then learn one thing and say, I'm going to start to implement that. Instead of kind of losing the plot when the kids do something completely bonkers, maybe just say, right, okay, I'm going to take a step back and I'm just going to practice breathing. All right, they've done this thing. It's driving me insane, but I'm not going to react to it, because when I react to it, it causes friction. I'm going to practice just breathing. When they ask, what are you doing, Daddy? Like, I'm just taking a minute for myself to breathe, to calm myself back down, because I don't want to shout. All right, and then from there, the kids will see you doing that and be like, oh, cool, yeah, okay. Might not solve that immediate issue, but at least it's a step in the right direction, instead of trying to change absolutely everything. Same goes for building a business, having a better marriage, meeting the person you're dreams, whatever it may be. What is the smallest level thing you can do right now to get yourself moving forward? Because once you commit and actually have the discipline to take that action, that's when the momentum starts to build, and that's when you can keep the ball rolling. All right, so for me, this was the first episode of the podcast. It's about a 15-minute episode. It's not long. They may go longer. I do like a blether. My intention is to get more people on as well, to have some interviews. You know, it could be anywhere from 15 minutes up to an hour. Sometimes I do like to kind of blabber on a bit. But right now, the first one is in the books. That's me. I've done the first one. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you get something from it. It's in the books. It's done. I made a commitment to myself. I spoke with my coach at the start of the week, and I made a commitment. You know, it's been something I've been talking about for a while. I've made that commitment. I made it publicly. And now I have done the thing. I've done what I said I was going to do. I'm now going to edit the start and end so people can kind of see what it all is all about, and then from there I'm going to put it out to the world, and it will change over time. The name will change, maybe the editing will get better, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but the first one is in the books. So like I say, I hope you got something from that. I would love to hear your thoughts. I'd love it if you could drop me a little comment down below, and like I say, if you're watching YouTube, make sure YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button and make sure you turn on your notifications. We're going to try and drop a podcast episode on a YouTube coverage of it. I don't know. I don't know what the chat is for this nonsense, man. I've never done it before. All right, we're going to try and drop a new one every single week. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn on those notifications so you can see when these get dropped. And like I say, drop me a wee comment, share this, do all that kind of good stuff so that more people can get the benefit. All right, but thank you so much for tuning in. Can't wait to see you on the next one. Take care.